Hello, I want to show you another trick for growing fig cuttings. So this is what I like to do after I've prepared my fig cuttings. I like to set them in water for about a week or so, just to make sure that the nodes develop roots. But you don't want the nodes to develop roots too much, because then when you put them into soil, you'll damage the roots. And so I like to wait until they're just barely starting to come out of the nodes, and I'll show you what that looks like. So here's my substrate. I use a mixture of perlite, sand, and some topsoil that's high in sphagnum moss. You can just use pure sphagnum moss if you want. And that's what it looks like all mixed together. I add a little bit of cardboard too for some hydration. And I like to use clear cups for the inside so I can look at root growth, and I punch a bunch of holes in them with a soldering iron. That's what they look like, just to make sure that there's plenty of drainage. You don't want those fresh cuttings to rot. And then there's two ways to do it. So you can either put a little bit at the bottom and then check this out. So look at these nodes. These nodes aren't fully developed yet. So I'm gonna wait on that one and let that one stay in the water a little longer. This is a little bit more of what you're looking for. You could probably wait another day or so, but see how they're already developing the roots. You're gonna want to get these in soil pretty quick, because if you wait too long, they'll be long, and when you put them into soil, you'll probably damage them. So this is probably about ready to put into soil. And so I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the soil. So I just realized I went off camera. And then, yeah, you put some soil around it, and you don't want to pack it in too hard, but you want to get most of the air out, just so that there's good contact with the cutting and the soil, so that the soil moisture can transfer to the cutting. Once it gets roots, it won't really matter so much, but right now with very little, just those little spots of roots, you just want that to be touching some soil, and hopefully the soil is going to conduct hydration to the roots. And try to do this without making a huge mess. So yeah, just get your substrate in the cup, and then you're going to hydrate your mixture. Get in some water. I have a little aquarium that I use for my propagation, so this water's has a little bit of algae in it. That makes sure that the water doesn't have any chlorine or anything else. And so yeah, you can kind of actually see the water moving down through this. And I'll probably wet it a couple times, let it drain, and then just leave it in these cups. There's a few ways to do this. I like to put it in opaque or red, non-see-through solo cups on the outside, just so that the sun doesn't damage the root development. But obviously at first, it's surrounded by soil, so that's not going to be an issue. So let's do another one. And I'm going to look at them and make sure that they're ready. So that's what they look like, in my opinion, when they're ready to transfer to soil. You got those roots just barely starting to develop, like little whiteheads, little pimples. Those are going to turn into roots. The roots, each one of those spots is going to become a separate root. So before they start coming out in the water, get them in that soil. So just keep on repeating until they're all in their own little cups. And they should have roots in a few weeks. You should actually see them coming to that outside surface of the clear cup if you do them in a clear cup. Just keep adding soil until they're up to the top. Keep accidentally going off camera, sorry about that. Add water. You can kind of see the water percolating through the soil, especially when you add sand and perlite. Makes it really well draining, which is what I love to use. Okay, just put it off to the side and move on to the next one. I always like to check the cuttings. In theory, you could probably just put all of these in soil, direct sow them into the yard, and they'll probably do just fine. But I kind of like to see what they look like before and put them in and see how they grow over time. Most of these are going to go into my classroom. I'm a high school teacher, so I'm trying to show my students a lot of things that I sure didn't know when I was a kid. So I want to show them how to propagate things such as fig trees and put them in soil and have the sticks become their own trees and grow roots. A lot of kids don't know how to do this stuff. I mean, a good number of my students are subscribed to my channel, so there's a good chance that at least a few of them will watch this. But I'm hoping that when I bring attention to it, it's going to make it a little bit more something that they know. You'll notice that some of these are tips or end cuttings, and then some are, I don't know what to call them, in-between cuttings. Kind of experimenting with a variety. I've had some people tell me one works better than the other, so it'd be kind of interesting to see if one does happen to work better than the other in my small sampling of experiments. Just keep adding soil. I like to give it about a ½ inch to the top just so it's easier to add water. Many times, I'm sure you, like me, have added too much soil, and then when you go to water, it's just annoying. It's one of the nice things about having really well-draining soil is you don't really have to worry if you've added too much or too little water. You kind of automate that process by just making sure that the cutting isn't just sopping wet. I'm not sure about this one. You'll notice that the roots haven't even started developing yet, so I'm probably going to let this one soak a little longer. I mean, I could always just put it in soil to see what would happen. I don't know. But yeah, as you can see, none of those spots there should be roots have turned white yet, which means there's no root growth. Those cells still aren't active. But yeah, what the heck. I'm going to go ahead and give it a try. I'm going to mark this one in a minute just so I can keep track of the progress of a cutting that has not yet started the process of differentiating those root cells. I'm kind of curious if that actually makes a difference. I just heard that if you put them in water first, you have a far higher probability of the cuttings not dying and drying out. So I just have one that's weird like this that hasn't even started developing roots. And it might be, since it hasn't started developing roots, it's actually not going to ever start developing roots. So I don't know if this is actually a real experiment, but kind of curious. And this one has a little bit. A little bit of root growth. Running low on soil. I didn't mix as much as I thought I'd mix, so I'm going to try to not lose too much.